talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome into View from the West podcast, the podcast covering Illinois high school football on the western side of the state of Illinois. I'm your host, Greg Armstrong. Back with me tonight, Mitch Stormer. Mitch, thank you so much for being back. And Mitch, it is officially game week. We are here. Week one is upon us.
Yeah, we're here. We're counting down the hours and looking forward to this weekend for sure.
This is going to be our kind of season preview and certainly our week one preview of the season. We'll look at the matchups that are ahead in week one. But Mitch, before we get ahead of ourselves, we need to promote the product here. Anyone listening, if you haven't heard our conference previews, all of our conference previews, the Western Big Six, the Three Rivers, the Lincoln Trail, the NUIC, and some 8-man football previews. They're all available in our archives. Wherever you listen to this podcast, go back and find those episodes if you haven't heard them yet, or they're pinned up on top. They're our top tweet on our Twitter account, View from West Pod on Twitter. Go check them out. Mitch, we've talked about a lot of football, and the old cliche goes that, you know, it's week one, the talking's over, but that's what we do best is talk. So we're going to keep talking a little bit more here in this episode. Let's start with the storylines of the season. What are you looking forward to, Mitch? What teams, what players, what, just the stories that stand out to you as we head into week one here?
Yeah, I mean, I think of all the conferences that we cover, I think there's opportunity for some new teams to make some moves, maybe some new teams that haven't either won a conference title or competed for one in the past couple of years. I think that there are a few teams that are going to be able to make a jump. In the preview shows that I did the Three Rivers. I'm really looking forward to Monmouth Roseville. I really like what they have coming back. They had a strong season last year, a game away from winning that division, and then a tough draw in the playoffs against IC Catholic. So if either of those two things kind of swing the other way, you're talking about a whole different dynamic. And then you're bringing everybody, all those kids back, or at least most of them, certainly your dynamic players. So really looking for Monmouth Roseville to make a challenge towards the Princetons and the Kiwanis this year again, and see if they can come out on top.
Well, speaking of Monmouth Roseville and Kiwani, no guarantees, nothing set in stone yet, but I may be in Monmouth in week one covering the Titans and the Boilermakers. Yeah. I was there for that matchup last year when it was in Kiwani, and Kiwani looked really good. That was kind of like, the debut of what their season was about to become. Yeah. So I may have to make that trip again and cover that game.
Well, and speaking of Kiwani and things that are looking good, have you seen the new field?
Oh, it looks so good. It looks awesome. So good.
Off the top of my head, it's got to be the best one in the conference. There's no question. It looks so nice. They did a great job with that.
Yeah. Now, Mitch, can we go on a side tangent real quick? Because we've talked about our love for the beauty that is a muddy, grimy playoff football game.
Yep.
But I also do truly appreciate, a good looking field turf. Man, when it's done right, it's a work of art. And Kiwani did it right. It looks really good.
Yeah. Here's our trade-off, Greg. We'll take those field turf games because let's say that those are at night, right? Okay, so we'll take those during the regular season, and then we'll save the muddy sunshine games for the playoffs. How about that?
That's perfect. And I will say, and I know this is going to sound, very proper of me and not wanting to get muddy, but man, a field turf is great for a sideline photographer. Yeah. I know I can run from sideline to sideline and not dodge huge puddles of mud, and my clothes aren't going to come out soggy and wet and muddy, but I know I sound real, too proper and fancy when I say it like that. So
yeah, right. Well, they're going to take care of you there in Kiwani, so hopefully you get to cover a game there.
That's right. The field turf looks great, and you get a pork chop at the end of the night, so it's always a great time in Kiwani. Yep. So well, Mitch, I'm going to go to the Western Big Six for my storyline that stands out. We talked about it a lot in our preview show of the Western Big Six. I really just think this conference is wide open. I know that's probably a cliche. We say that every year, but since that 2021 spring season, since that COVID spring, when United Township really burst on the scene, I think that's added a whole new dynamic to this conference. It's just really added an extra layer because that Panther team is going to be competitive. Last year they went 4-5, and I think they were right there on the doorstep, and they were a younger team, and they're right back in the mix now. I think they're a team that's really interesting to watch, but I think you got to respect the talent level that Moline, Sterling, Rock Island, and that's not to mention Geneseo and even Galesburg. And I just think and Quincy. I don't want to leave out Quincy.
I was gonna say, don't leave out Quincy.
No, I don't want to sleep on them because I know they're kind of they're the distant outlier from where we're located, but they are certainly a team that's going to bring a lot of talent back. And Mitch, we haven't even mentioned in all this conversation, I just saw an article on Max Preps right in the middle of the article talking about the best of the best things to look for in Illinois high school football this year. Rock Island Alleman offensive lineman Charles Jagasaw is the state's #1 senior prospect committed to Notre Dame. So it is so cool in this, article talking about East St. Louis and Loyola Academy and all these heavy hitters. When it comes to individual accolades, Rock Island Alleman's Charles Jagasaw gets the nod. That's really cool. And Mitch, you're rocking that Fighting Irish hat here on the video, so I know you're excited.
Yeah, gonna hopefully join a long line of great linemen there. Looking forward to his season. Looking forward to Alleman's season. You guys on the Western Big Six preview, you guys were talking about this a little bit. I think that's a team that isn't going to go 0-9 this year. They have a good chance to win the first 2 weeks of the season, so they've got great numbers. They've got some things straightened out on the field and in the administration. So I'm looking forward to Alleman's season. Really, I'm not expecting a lot, but I'm expecting it to be better than last year as they just continue to kind of make progress, bump up their numbers, and looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Yeah, when I went to the Western Big Six banquet, it was really good to hear from Fritz Deodonia. To hear him talk about how last year he was very honest in saying that going 0-9, like in the moment, it was really hard to see those, moral victories or the things that, the quote unquote doing it the right way and really competing till the final horn. All those things, Mitch, as a competitor, it's hard to feel that way after a loss. The loss stings, no matter you're a coach, a player, a parent, a fan. But, Fritz did say that now after he's had time to kind of take a step back and really reflect on it, it was a building process for them. And it was something that they can be proud of their effort they put in last year. And I think it all builds towards then what I really love that he said is now it's all about fighting for that W. Let's walk off the field as a winner. If any team deserves a win, it's this Alleman program. It's Coach Fritz and it's, Charles Jagasaw and these seniors that have battled through some tough situation and tough circumstances. I hope they can get one. Like you said, I think it would be a great story for them and for our area.
Yeah, and shout out to all those seniors or even anyone who's coming back from last year who stuck it out and have worked hard in the off season preparing for this new year. And like we've said, we hope to see them at that in the win column and for those kids.
Well, Mitch, before we jump into week 1, I think, I kind of want to look around the state of Illinois. We talk a lot about come playoff time, the teams that we end up seeing our teams matching up against in the playoffs. Let's look ahead a little bit. Like I referenced that Max Preps article, they put out their top 25. And I will say it is really cool to see Lena Winslow coming in at number 20 and Princeton coming in at number 24. So our local area getting a couple teams on that list. But Mitch, there's some heavy hitters on this list. You look at number 1, East St. Louis. They fell to Cary Grove in a fantastic state championship game a year ago. They're the top preseason team coming in for obvious reasons. So much Division I talent, so much speed and athleticism. They're a really fun team to watch. I got to think, like this Max Preps list has them number 1. They're going to be right there at the end of the year again, come that week 14, state championship in Champaign. Mitch, what other teams, when you look down the top 25, do you see that, do you think we're going to talk about them eventually this year?
Yeah. Again, some of these teams will fall into, different classifications and things like that we've dealt with every year. But when you look at this list, you see 1, a lot of heavy hitters from last year, a lot of repeat names that were in the finals last season, but 2, just your traditional names, right? Your East St. Louis, your Mount Carmels, your Joliet Catholics, Sacred Heart Griffin. So it's just another stacked list of great teams that we expect to be to good again. So as you said, for looking at these teams, it's a lot of 8A, 7A, 6A teams and such forth. And then you see Lena, you see Princeton. So that's a testament to those programs and what they have coming back, and then really what their body of work the past couple of years. So that's a cool honor for them to see, because I do believe they're one of the best teams in the state. Now, is Lena going to go and play an 8A team and win? Probably not. But if you kind of take in, whatever factors that may be, I do think they are one of the best teams in the state, or at least they were last year. So, this is a great list. And Greg, I'm looking at number 2. What can you tell me about Loyola Academy here?
Yeah, well, I think our area is going to learn a little bit about Loyola Academy in week number 2. Loyola Academy will host United Township. So we'll talk a little bit about United Township and their schedule and their week 1 opponent coming up in a minute here. But yeah, that's a game that came on the schedule late, and it's United Township traveling up to a very prominent, no secrets here. You know how good Loyola Academy is if you pay attention to Illinois high school football. So that's a challenge for sure. But I think it's kind of a fun test for the Panthers. Win or lose, I think it's great to show your kids, like, here's what it takes to be the best. And I think it's a fun challenge for a team that has some expectations in United Township.
Yeah, and I don't know the circumstances of how that game was scheduled, or if UT was looking for any opponent they could find. Again, I don't know the circumstances, but again, you have an open week, and you're gonna schedule the defending runner-up in 8A. So that says a lot about UT, that they're up for the challenge, where they could have maybe scheduled just say a lesser opponent. They're up for the challenge. They want to challenge their kids. So cool for one of our teams in the area to play one of the best teams coming back in the state of Illinois. Yep.
Well, Mitch, another thing that kind of stands out to me on the list is Byron comes in at 17, but then a team that Byron beat last year on their way to a state championship, that little old Catholic school, IC Catholic Prep from Elmhurst, comes in at 15. So no surprise, Mitch. I don't think IC Catholic is going anywhere. They've, been kind of a thorn in the side for our local teams, and I'm guessing they'll be in the playoff mix again, and we'll probably see them and talk about them.
Yeah, again, I think they still will fall into 3A this year. They didn't meet the qualifications to be bumped up, so shows that they're beatable. They're not this unstoppable team. But that does bring me to my next point, Greg.
Yes,
because we talked about this a little bit. We talked about it on the show before, but one team that would be on this list if we were in the early 2000s, and this is for everyone who, if you're a student or a player who doesn't know about this program, or a coach who might be new, whatever it may be. But I went down a rabbit hole this week, and looking back at the 2001 through 2008 Addison Driscoll Catholic teams.
Yeah, there's some Bureau Valley fans that are very familiar with where you're going here.
I think there's probably a Lido fans too, I think.
Yeah, possibly.
Maybe I could have that incorrect, but either way, for anybody who's listening who doesn't know about the powerhouse that was Addison Driscoll Catholic, they still hold the state record. They won 7 state titles in a row. I think they won 4 in 4A and 3 in 3A. I think that's what that was. They lost 6 games in that span of their reign, and they just dominated. So again, we would probably be having the conversation about, well, what's their enrollment versus, public school, things like that. But the difference being is that they were just so dominant for so long, and unfortunately ran into financial troubles, and they closed down in 2009. But again, if anyone's interested, look up those past seasons of Addison Driscoll, because they were just a dominant force, and they would be number 1 on this list for probably multiple years if they were still around.
Yeah, that I remember when that story, I mean, obviously I remember when they were in the middle of their run. Yeah. And then when the rumors and the, articles started coming out that, things weren't looking good and they didn't know if they could keep the doors open. And all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, how does this dominant football program just go away and just, it doesn't exist anymore? And that's what happened. It was just, I remember it just being very bizarre, because it was obviously it was one of those teams that you came to hate because they were the New York Yankees of,
Right.
of Illinois high school football. They were winning all the time, and then they were just gone. And now I think fast forward, you've seen Lombard Montini kind of pick up some of those pieces, and I believe IC Catholic has kind of stepped in, and they've taken some of those pieces that would have gone to Addison Driscoll. So that's a very unique story in the history of Illinois, high school football for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I remember this would have been 2004. That was my junior year, right? I think so. Yeah. Having played that Bureau Valley team, and they were undefeated. They won the Big Rivers, as it was called at the time, steamrolled through the playoffs, and then got to Driscoll in the final, and Driscoll just took care of business. So
yeah,
I remember seeing that, and it was just like, man, I know how good Bureau Valley is, and for them to lose the way that they did, I'm looking at it now, it was 37-14. It was just a testament to how good Driscoll was. And again, that sustained success for 7 straight seasons. I don't know that that'll be topped again. That's a pretty significant stretch of championships.
Yeah. Credit where it's due. Was that Bureau Valley led by quarterback Brad Monier?
Yes, it was. And they had, and I think Garrett Barnes, who was the quarterback successor there, he was a running back. He was up on varsity his sophomore year, and he was a running back before he came up into quarterback. But yeah, it was Brad Monier, Preston Jones. I can't remember their other back's name, but they were just a force.
Yeah.
Like I said, undefeated in the conference, which was good at the time. Newman was really good at the time. Morrison was good at the time. But again, just a testament to how good Driscoll was. And if anyone, again, who is not familiar, look that up, because that's a record that I don't know that it would be broken.
Yeah, and getting back to Bureau Valley, I'm not real shocked to find out that Garrett Barnes could also be a successul running back. That
he was, yeah, he was.
that does not surprise me, or probably anyone who remembers watching him as quarterback as well. Yeah. And Brad Monier, now an assistant coach, been at Geneseo for several years now. So, yeah, the local connection there in the Western Big Six. Well, all right, Mitch, before we jump into week 1, I do want to take a quick pause. And Mitch, I do want to promote to anyone out there listening, if anyone is interested in being a sponsor or helping out View from the West podcast, Mitch, we're looking for sponsors. We're looking for people to plug on these airwaves. And I think it's one of those things where, neither one of us are, we're not desperately searching for money, but also there is cost and time that comes into producing this every week. It certainly is a passion of both of ours. It's something we love to do, but there are some costs associated with it. And, I just want to throw it out there that if anyone is interested in sponsoring, we're looking for, uniform of the week type of sponsor, or game of the week sponsor, or, just getting your, your business, restaurant, whatever it may be, getting it out there. We would love for sponsorship to join us in this 2022 season. If anyone is interested, email us at viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Send us an email. Let's get the ball rolling. We'll figure out what we can do here for this season. Well, Mitch, before we jump into week 1, we'll get into all the games and everything we need to talk about. I did see a really cool story on Facebook and on Twitter this past week from Sherrard High School. Head coach Brandon Johnston put it out on Facebook that Sherrard brought in Leonard Luxmore to his practice to talk about his son, BJ Luxmore. BJ is a former Sherrard football player who, after graduating, enlisted in the military and was unfortunately killed in action in Afghanistan in 2012. Now, last year, the Sherrard football program retired his number. And now this year, I saw they have a new helmet. It's a matte purple helmet with a block Sherrard S on it in their school colors. But they're also adding a team sticker to honor BJ Luxmore. It's his name in a circle with the number 5, which is the number he wore in high school. So such a cool honor and a really cool way for this Sherrard program to connect and honor BJ Luxmore's life and his legacy, back to these current high school kids. Brandon Johnston had the Facebook message out there that just said, we wanted our kids to know and hear about BJ to truly understand the meaning behind our commemorative stickers that we will wear. The stickers were redesigned, and it was with the help and the final approval coming from the Luxmore family. So just a huge credit to Coach Johnston and the Sherrard Athletic Department and the high school for really bringing in the Luxmore family and embracing them in a way to honor BJ Luxmore, someone who certainly deserves, all of the remembrance for the sacrifice that he gave to our country. Just a really cool story.
Yeah, that's really well said. So again, I'll just echo what you said. Kudos to the entire Sherrard program, the entire Sherrard community, the Luxmore family, on keeping this legacy alive, a well-deserved legacy, and doing so in a way that the football team, like you said, understands the importance of it, and plays in honor of that. So yeah, once again, a very cool story, and looking forward to seeing that all season.
Yeah. Yep, definitely, for sure. Well, let's jump into it. Let's jump into games in week 1. Mitch, we're here. The games are on the field coming this Friday. Let's start in the Western Big Six. We'll start with United Township at Laselle, Peru. Last year, United Township was a game short of the playoffs. They finished at 4-5. Laselle, Peru finished 5-5. They lost in the first round of the 5A playoffs. Mitch, we're going to start, before we go into the rest of these games, this is a game I really want to pinpoint because I think it's a very significant game for United Township, being that their second game is a real test against Loyola Academy.
Right.
You really want to get this one to ensure that at the very least you can be 1-1. I mean, I think the goal is to go 2-0, obviously. But, man, this game seems really important when you go on the road to Laselle, Peru.
I'm really looking forward to this and seeing what Nick Welsh has in store this season. One of the best quarterbacks in the conference that we'll talk about a lot this season, Matthew Kelly. Looking forward to seeing him back. Again, a great year, battled through injuries, even came back into games playing through injuries. So a tough kid there, always the type of guy that you want to be under center or taking shotgun snaps as they might be. But, looking forward to seeing guys like Corey Randall getting some speed here for the Panthers. Might be a bit of an X factor. Maybe they're going to incorporate him in the offense in more ways than one, whether lines up on the outside, lines up under center, lines up at running back. So looking forward to see that type of versatility from the Panthers. And again, like you said, they were one game short. They've been, the past couple of years, have been making progress from that shortened spring season because, in that spring season, they really had a fantastic offense. And so last year might have been a bit of a transition year. And so maybe now they get a little bit more stability again. It starts with Matthew Kelly. But looking forward to the defense too. They played a lot of shootout games last year that they didn't come out on top of, or even games that they did, they still gave up a lot of points. So, I think Coach Welch is excited for some size and some talent coming back. So, a tough matchup though here with Laselle Peru. I think Stocking was saying that it's a quarterback and dad connection there with coaching quarterback. So, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to correlate, but they certainly have had plenty of practice getting the system right there. So,
let's run down the rest of the schedule and we'll see what stands out to us here. Galesburg at Dunlap, Geneseo versus Chicago Noble, Moline versus St. Lawrence, Quincy at Quincy Notre Dame, Alleman at Chicago Academy, Rock Island at Pekin, and Sterling versus Lake Villa.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mitch, how about that Quincy at Quincy Notre Dame? That's going to be an electric atmosphere for week 1.
Yeah, that's awesome. Greg, can I say I'm looking forward to all of these games? I mean,
you're just looking forward to football. So,
right. I mean, just kind of quick one hitters. Geneseo's playing a good Noble team coming back. Looking forward to seeing how Moline starts off against a good team like St. Lawrence. Rock Island, how are they going to reload against a good Pekin team? And same with Sterling, a strong Lake Villa team who went to the playoffs last year. But we kind of talked about it at the beginning. I'm almost more focused on Alleman more than anything because I think that's a winnable game for them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how they line up this year against Chicago Academy. Always hard to predict how Chicago public schools are going to come into play, but I still think that's a winnable game for Alleman. They do go on the road. But again, I'm interested in all of them, but I think maybe just for this week 1, I'm going to focus on Alleman just to see if they can get that win.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that. I think, Moline and St. Lawrence and also Sterling and Lake Villa, they're good non-conference tests for both of those teams that we have high expectations for in the Western Big Six. So that those are interesting to see how they start out.
Yeah, I will have to say we'll have to wait on the Alleman result because that is a Saturday game. So we'll have the rest on Friday night. Alleman at Chicago Academy on Saturday.
Well, Mitch, let's transition from the Western Big Six, and we'll head over to the Three Rivers Conference, where you were born and raised, Mitch, the good old Three Rivers.
Yep.
And actually, it's not Lake Villa, but Bureau Valley will be at Villa Grove. So, keep your villas correct, but that's a non-conference matchup that Bureau Valley had to fill when Riverdale dropped out of their varsity schedule this season. So that's an interesting non-conference game to start the year for Bureau Valley.
Yeah, and again, a team kind of like we were talking about with UT a little bit. This is a team that last year started to make some strides. You saw in games they were playing better, they were playing closer. Probably could have the chances to win a few more games last season. Not going to say they should have or play that game, but just they were close. Let's just say that. So. Looking forward to this winnable game for Bureau Valley. Again, this is a game that they got on the schedule due to Riverdale canceling their season. So always fun to see new opponents. I love them when teams are able to do that. The circumstances, notwithstanding, always cool to see new opponents come into play. So Bureau Valley kicks us off here in week 1 with that situation here.
Yep. Well, let's go through the rest of the games that are either crossover games or Three Rivers Athletic Conference games. Mendota at Erie Prophetstown, Hall at Orion, Kewanee at Monmouth Roseville, St. Bede at Sherrard, Princeton at Rock Ridge. That game was supposed to be on Thursday night, but I've heard it's moved back to Friday now.
Okay.
So that's what Matt Randazzo told me in a text earlier today. So if it's wrong, we blame WQAD.
Yep. Sorry, Score.
That's right.
This one's on you.
If it's wrong, we blame Brian Stocking. It's easiest that way.
Yep. Somehow it can get traced back to him. So originally that was brought up to Thursday to fulfill a referee shortage. So whether they got that sorted out or what it may be. So whether it's Thursday or Friday, we're looking forward to that one.
There you go. And the last one, Newman at Morrison, the rivalry, Mitch, that you are oh so familiar with.
Yep.
So, Mitch, I'll start. What games stand out to you? We already referenced a little bit of the Kewanee and Monmouth Roseville game. That's the one that really draws my attention, but plenty of good, interesting matchups here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of not questions. I have a lot of curiosity for the Three Rivers this year because there's a lot of teams that are replacing star players, replacing big classes, replacing talent, things of that nature. I look at Newman and Morrison. Newman coming with a new coach, Mike LeMay. Morrison with finally a full off season with their coach, Steve Snyder. I expect both teams to be. I expect Newman to be as good as they were last year. I expect Morrison to be better. So who can get on the right foot in that one? Princeton at Rock Ridge. Again, Rock Ridge, a team that has to replace some talent, but has a lot of talent coming back. But Princeton just, has been the king. I expect them to still be the king, barring a challenge from Monmouth Roseville and Kewanee again this year. Again, Mendota, Erie Prophetstown, St. Bede, Sherrard, all 4 teams, and Hall and Orion for that matter, all 6 teams. A lot of new faces. So it's going to make this season pretty exciting here in Three Rivers.
You look back at that Mendota at Erie Prophetstown, I believe it was a year ago, either in week 1 or week 2 early in the season. I'm guessing it was week 1 because probably the schedule replicates itself. Mendota and Erie Prophetstown played a really close game, and Mendota came out on top. But Erie Prophetstown, both teams went on to have really successful seasons. So might be interesting to see where that one goes and how it dictates things moving forward for them. But man, I think at the end of the day, I'm excited for Kewanee and Monmouth Roseville. I may be out walking the sidelines with Coach Adolphson and Coach Swanson out there for the Boilermakers and the Titans. That's a game that really excites me.
Yeah, they'll be fired up in Monmouth, that's for sure.
Well, Mitch, let's move into the Northwest Upstate Illini, as Kyle Kampmeyer calls it, the Conference of Champions.
Yep.
Really hard to dispute that when you start talking about Lena Winslow as back-to-back and then every other team that's gone over the, state championships over the last few years.
Right. Let's
start going down the list here. Dakota at Chicago Christ the King, Forreston at Stockton, Fulton versus Galena, Lena Winslow versus Eastland Pearl City, and Dupec versus West Carroll. So we'll start there with West Carroll being their first varsity game in well over a year
Mhm.
because they were not able to compete much in the COVID year. And last year they did not have the numbers for varsity. So this is a tough challenge for them coming up against Dupec, who's a bigger program in terms of NUIC football and also a very successful program with a lot of talent.
Yeah, this is a pretty tough draw to start off your season for West Carroll. So you never know. They've had time to prepare. But Dupec's just been a different beast. Obviously, when you're talking about a conference champion in the NUIC, you're talking about a really good program. So Dupec does have some places or some pieces to replace. So I'm interested to see how dynamic that offense. I still expect it to be very good. Just might be a little bit of a different look this year, but I still expect them to be 1-0 this week. No offense to the Thunder, but Dupec is just I expect them to be very good. Lena, kind of the same thing. Eastland Pearl City's been up and down, so it's a tough draw in this week one. Looking forward to Lena again, another team that has new faces. Some names that were on those back-to-back champion rosters are no longer there, but they're just going to reload. They've got new players coming in. They've got players that are coming up from freshman and sophomore ranks. So I expect them to challenge again for the title and make another challenge in the 1A ranks as well. Greg, Fulton and Galena, Forest and Stockton, where are you looking here?
Yeah, I think those are the two games that really stand out to me. I think I'll start with Forreston at Stockton.
Yeah.
I think Stockton's going to be an improved football team this year. And, this is a tough challenge for them. Forreston has proven year in and year out to be right there. They knocked off Lena Winslow in week 9 last year. That was the calling card of their season. Yep. Are they up at that level? They lost a lot of players. And I think Stockton, on the other hand, has a lot of players returning. And I think momentum is building in that program. They're hungry to get back to the playoffs and back to that standard that the Stockton Blackhawks expect. So that's a game that stands out to me being at Stockton. Mitch, have you ever been to a game at Stockton?
I think I've said it before. I've played at Stockton.
Okay.
And one of my favorite places to play.
Yes.
It's right there along the highway. Just your classic small town along the side of the road football stadium. Much like Fulton. Fulton's a great place to play too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it in Stockton. I haven't been there in a long time. I know that they still look good. They got great uniforms there. And add that field and that environment. Yeah, that is one that ranks pretty high in my memories.
I always appreciate the softball field cutouts that run into the end zones. I believe Dakota used to have that. They may still have that that same effect in their end zones.
Yeah.
But Stockton always had it. I always appreciate that. It's a unique touch.
Yep.
So, Mitch, let's talk about the Lincoln Trail Conference. A-Town had a lot of success last year in the Lincoln Trail. They will be at Rova Williams Field to start the season, a team that we think may be improved this year. So that's an interesting matchup. Anawan Weathersfield at Monmouth United, Princeville at Knoxville, Mercer County in a crossover game versus Farmington, and Stark County at Nokomis. So, Mitch, we talked about Mercer County, a team we're high on. They want to get off to a fast start. That's what Coach Hofer's talked about compared to last year. But man, that crossover with Farmington's hanging out right there. That's a tough test.
Yeah, that was a tough game for them last season. And so, like you said, they're trying to get off to a better start. Where last year I think they were 1-3, and then they just kind of played catch up. They don't want to be in that predicament. Obviously, kudos to them. They had that great playoff game with Newman. But they want to get off on a better foot this year, whether it be just in week 1 or within the first 4 weeks. But always a tough test with Farmington. But they've got good players coming back. They've got great talent, a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns coming back, a lot of players that are returning on defense. So I expect Mercer County to be better in this game against Farmington than they were last year, and expect them to be a playoff team. So hopefully they get their first of the 6 automatic wins right off the bat here in week 1. But that is probably the game of the week here in the conference, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think when you start talking about actual LTC conference games, though, you got to look at Anawan Weathersfield at Monmouth United. Now, Anawan Weathersfield got the win last year in their week 1 matchup. That one was at Weathersfield. They're flipping this year for their home opener, for the opener of the season. but Monmouth United went on to have a great season. So I'm really curious to see how this matchup goes, because Anawan Wethersfield returns a lot of players from a team last year that did get to the playoffs at 5-4. United's right there, though. David Milroy has this program going in the right trajectory. They're going the right way. I'm excited for this matchup too. And actually, it pairs up real nicely with a game at Monmouth Roseville. So, Mitch, you may have just discovered my swing on this first opening week.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I was as high on Anawan Wethersfield in the previous show as I probably should have been. Maybe I was, but they've got a lot of talent coming back that played as sophomores last season. Dylan Horry comes back, one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. Colin Hornback, who we talked a lot about as a receiving threat. So and on defense, I should say, he's a premier defensive player. So this is going to be another young team, but a young team with experience. So they might be my dark horse to win the LTC this year. I think A-Town has to replace a lot of talent. Even United, like you said, they had a great season last year, did lose some players. So looking forward to Anawan Wethersfield's season this year, but this will be a tough matchup for them in week 1.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up our talk on the Lincoln Trail, we have to mention A-Town at Roval Williamsfield. This is another interesting matchup because A-Town loses a lot of senior talent from a year ago, whereas Roval Williamsfield has a lot of younger kids that are still in the program that, are really eager to get their next shot at things. Last year, they finished 2-7. That's not where they want to be. But, I've heard people tell me that they've always been really impressed with Grant Goldstrand and how he coaches and what he can do for a team. I'm really excited to see what he can do here and see if he can get this Cougars team, on the winning end of some games. And it starts here with this opportunity at home in week 1 against a young team in A-Town that's trying to figure some things out.
Yeah, Rova's going to be real strong at two positions that you want to be strong in, right? Linebacker and running back.
Yep.
So if they can wear down their opponents, they're going to have a lot more wins than the 2 that they had last year. So like you said, hopefully 2021 was an experience for them, and now they're really going to build upon that and make a run. Because I think as much as I think Anawan Wethersfield will, I guess I'll predict them to be my champion. I think it is pretty wide open, and Rova could surprise some teams. It's going to be tough with Mercer County and Knoxville, but I think certainly they'll be better than 2-7. Could be possibly pushing a playoff spot.
Yeah. Well, let's look at, you mentioned Knoxville. They are at home against Princeville. Can they continue to do what they did so well last year? That's winning LTC football games. And, there's no secret what Knoxville's going to do. They're going to run the ball right at you, and they're going to challenge you, and you got to figure out a way to stop them. Can they continue to do that against a Princeville team that, they had been up near the top of the conference and last year fell down a little bit? Can they get back up there? And then the last game, Stark County struggled a lot, in recent years. Not what we're used to seeing with Jade Nord and that football team out there. Can they get a non-conference win against Nokomis, this season to start out? So those are the matchups. That's what we're looking for in the Lincoln Trail. Mitch, I'm excited. I think I'm going to see some Lincoln Trail football in week 1. I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah, like we said at the top of the show, we're 4 days out, and it's hard to believe because it always seems like we were just sitting around watching the state championship games. So thankfully, it was a quick off season, and we're right back into it now. This is exciting. This is fun.
Well, before we let everybody go, we're done with 11-man. Let's talk some 8-man football, Mitch.
Yeah.
Let's get the 8-man schedules out here. Amboy, a team that was really good a year ago, a team that really came on late in the season, and wouldn't you know it, this may be the game of the year in 8-man. I'm not exaggerating. This may be the game of the year in 8-man football, and it's in week 1, Amboy at defending 2-time state champion Polo. Holy, can you talk about coming out of the gate on fire in 8-man football? This is it. I mean, I know Kyle, I think, has already said, he's going to have to find a way to get to Polo that night. And, man, it's hard for me to not want to be there that night. That's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, my top 2 teams in my preseason rankings here. I had Polo number 1, and I was really impressed with Amboy's playoff push last year, and I think they bring a lot back, and they're going to be even better this year. So, yeah, this could determine. It's weird to say, right? This could determine who win state. Obviously, there's there's playoffs and such, but this is going to send a message to the rest of the 8-man teams, and somebody's going to leave this game wanting that rematch, and you might even get it. So, two of the best teams in 8-man. What a better way to start than in week 1.
Yeah, awesome way to start. Let's keep going down the list. Freeport-Acquin is at home against Scioto West Prairie. We have Hanover River Ridge going on the road to South Beloit. Another great matchup, Milledgeville at Orangeville. That's a great rivalry, a good old NUIC rivalry in week 1. So let's look at a few other 8-man teams from around our area. A good team that I think has a lot of high expectations this year, West Central, Biggsville. They're on the road at Bushnell Prairie City. You also have Ridgewood, their first year in 8-man football. Mitch, did you see their helmet? That's our first uni view of the year.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of those uniforms. So, yeah, that's a good-looking helmet. And looking forward to seeing them join the 8-man fold here.
Yeah, well, yeah, big shout out to Coach Elder. He nailed it. That helmet looks great. They will be at home against Galva. And, that's kind of the look at our 8-man. We already talked about 11-man. Mitch, here we go. Week 1, we're off and rolling here.
Yeah. This is exciting. So looking forward to the broadcasts again. Shout out to all the programs who put in the effort to do that. Obviously, Sterling sets the standard there, but I also appreciate the smaller schools who have the broadcasters up in the crow's nest, I should say. Promoting the local, pork chop stand. So I love it all. So looking forward to it. Can't wait to watch on Friday. And I'll be on Twitter. I'll be posting the updates as fast as they come in. You'll have boots on the ground, and maybe join you for an after show. But we're looking forward to this, and I just can't say it enough.
Yeah, well, thank you to everyone who listened to this podcast. Like we said at the beginning of the show, if you haven't yet, go out and check out our conference preview podcasts. They're all out there. They're all available. We go through every team in detail, give you everything you need to know before the season kicks off this Friday. Mitch, I'm excited. It's going to be great. I'm gonna be out covering a couple games, doing the Monmouth swing, starting in Monmouth Roseville, heading over to Monmouth United. Then I'll head back to the WQAD studios, and we'll probably do an Instant Reacts podcast. Mitch, maybe we'll get you on the phone, and we'll have like a phone a friend, or we'll get you on the phone before that, so you can chime in and weigh in with your thoughts.
Yeah, the way that I think the season will play out, there might be some. I think there was one week, it might have been week 9. I think we had to have. We weren't planning on it. You and I had like an emergency Instant Reacts. I think that was week 9 because so many things were on the line. There was conference titles on the line, and there was playoff bids on the docket. So looking forward to that. I'm always available. I'm always up late, so even after the score is on the air, I'll be up and ready to go if that's ever necessary. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. A couple more quick plugs. I got to get them in here. I was on The Score, WQAD's high school football preview show. So their Score Sunday show just aired this past Sunday. You could head on out to WQAD.com and check that out. We also tweeted it out, so go to our Twitter account, check that out. And Mitch, I had some free time this weekend, which I never get. I had free time, so of course, what did I do? I spent it working on the View from the West podcast YouTube channel.
Okay,
so
great.
If you head out to our YouTube channel, you can see individual video clips of our team previews. We also have game highlights from last year, including Lena Winslow's state championship game, a couple other playoff games that I attended. I'll add my regular season game highlights that I went to last year. And then we have state championship games, old state championship game broadcasts. You want to talk about getting lost in a rabbit hole, man, you can start watching some stuff on there and find some great highlights.
Yeah.
So anyway, Mitch, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who listens. The next time we talk, we'll be talking results. The high school football season will be in full swing. Thank you so much to everyone. We'll see you next week. That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to go out to Apple Podcasts or Podbean and subscribe so you can follow along, and downloads will come automatically every week. You can follow along on Twitter at ViewFromWestPod. You can also email me if you're interested in being a sponsor, viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.